Comment ça va, Shelby?
Je suis bien.
Non. En anglais, on dit I'm fine. Je suis bien. En français, normalement, normally, non. On dit ça va bien. Comment
Ça va
ça
bien.
va? Ça va bien. On pourrait
va
dire,
bien.
si j'ai dit comment vas-tu?
Comment vas-tu?
Voilà, c'est parce que je peux dire comment ça va et tu dis ça va bien. Si je dis
Ça va
comment vas-tu, je me demande. Normalement, on dit ça va bien. Je vais bien. Comment vas-tu? Je vais bien. On peut le dire, mais c'est pas ce qu'on dit normalement, peut-être.
But to say je suis bien, does it mean something
First of all, you would never
else?
say je suis bien. I am good.
It's just that it would never
No,
be
you
said.
might say je because the question is comment vas-tu? How are you? It's all about going. Comment ça va? How is it going? Ça va bien. Comment vas-tu? Which is like comment allez-vous? Then the answer would be je vais bien. I am going well. I mean, if you said je suis bien, this people understand you, but it's not normally. Now again, I'm not a native speaker. Maybe there's a French native speaker here who will jump in and say, no, we say that. But to me, comment allez-vous? Normally you just say très bien. Comment allez-vous? Comment vas-tu? Bien. Je vais bien, you could also say. So the verb in the question is, how are you going? Comment vas-tu? So the answer is, je vais bien. I'm going fine.
Okay, great. Génial.
Génial. Voilà, génial. Qu'est-ce que je voulais dire? Ah. Sais-tu? Sais-tu? You understand that?
Uh-huh.
That means, do you know? That's a way of saying, you know? Like, sais-tu? It's like a
Okay.
savez-vous? It's just a filler verb.
No, I
Filler
was
question.
mishearing it. There's a lot of words that sound just like sit in French.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's one of the difficulties in French. So c'est, C apostrophe E-S-T, it is, c'est difficile. C'est, je sais, I know. So yeah, those are some of the things. And then of course, there's
NCE, like this.
Oh, ce.
Right?
Ce. Don't get your Spanish sneaking in there. E without an accent is ce. Voilà.
So.
Now, c'est as in it's like these books, ces livres. Okay? But c'est and c'est is different. S-E-S-E-S-T or je sais is a c'est et, whereas c'est is more like saying something in English, not quite as much, but these are things you gradually get used to, and you're able to pick them out from the context. Anyway, tell me, before we get, I have a few things in mind that I wanted to go over with you, but are there any questions or problems that you are experiencing with your French that you would like to raise?
I think it's just that being able to identify. I mean, I'm still really working on my pronunciation,
Right.
and comprehension as well. So I've been practicing saying, like on the mini stories, answering the questions out loud. Sometimes just like repeating them. I've been importing some song lyrics into LingQ. And so I've been trying to actually sing along.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's good.
And I've been, I started Le Petit Prince, the first 4 chapters.
Okay. Wow,
and
good.
It's really helpful because I've already read that book in Spanish.
Okay.
So like a couple years ago. So like I kind of know what's going on, and I think that's also been helping me. So I've just been experimenting with different methods of learning.
Right.
I guess we've talked a little bit about when to practice vocabulary, and I'll be honest, I haven't done really like any vocabulary practice this week, which I know you wanted me to do. I think it would be nice to I think, show people like what your preferred method is for doing vocab. Because I see people who do a lot of different ways of practicing it.
Okay.
Like, would you ever recommend to just go to the full list of vocabulary and do it that way? Or do you only like to do it in the lessons?
I rarely do that. Again, I think it's good to explore because we all need to take charge of our own learning. So the fact that you're exploring different content, that's good. That means, you have to maintain your curiosity. Obviously, the mini stories provide a lot of repetition, but then you get bored with those, and so you need to go and explore other content. It's also absolutely true that the more familiar we are with the content, the better we're going to learn. So if you were going to do, I don't know if you are knowledgeable in nuclear physics or something, but if you were to read something in French about nuclear physics, you wouldn't have much of a chance. I wouldn't if I were doing that in Persian, because I know nothing about the context. But if you go to something like The Little Prince, Le Petit Prince, where you're familiar with it, obviously it's easier. It's easier. You're familiar with it. So, so that's a good thing to do. With regard to vocabulary review, I typically do it as I turn the page. And my preferred method would be just to look at a list. Like, to be perfectly honest, I don't have the patience to go through flashcards. And if I go through flashcards, I go through them quickly. I want all the information on the front of the flashcard is just exposure. Bing, 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 bing. And I would prefer, actually, I've told Mike this, I would prefer just to see a list. Every page, as I turn the page, I look at a list of all the words that were there with their meaning right there, just a quick summary of what I saw. And then I move on to the next page. I have on occasion, and I think it's sometimes useful, because again, we like to vary the things that we do. So to go to the vocabulary section at LingQ, and in Russian, I was tagging things because the case endings are so difficult. So then I would review everything that I tagged for the accusative case, or that I tagged for the instrumental case. So I review those in sort of concentrated form. Anytime you get a concentration of something, of examples, I find that helpful. So another thing that I would sometimes do, and you may want to do at some point in your French, is go to the vocabulary section, which is normally organized alphabetically. And that means that words that you have saved that are very closely related, that begin with the same letter, that have the same components in them, you're going to see 4, 5, 6 of them. And that helps you. Again, it's a concentrated form, I can't remember, conditionnement, conditionné, condition. So you would get a whole bunch of these words that are somewhat related, and you have saved them all separately, maybe because you didn't remember what they meant, or because you wanted the different forms of them. And then if you look on your vocabulary list, I find the alphabetical review on a totally sort of random basis is sometimes a fun thing to do, just to, introduce some variety in your learning. But most of my time is listening and reading. I don't do a lot of dedicated vocabulary review. I find flashcards boring and annoying. So that's me. But there are people who enjoy doing that. So it's not to say that it's not. Yep.
Do you always use tags when you make links?
No, it depends on the language. I found the tags really helpful. So at different stages, like when I started into Arabic or Persian, like everything is a blur. When I listen, it's a blur, and I'm not really sure what's a verb, what's a noun. And so I would tag it, this is a noun, this is a verb, so that I can then look at all the verbs together, look at the nouns together. But that's only at the beginning while the language is still a blur. Or I might tag adverbs. Like I did a fair amount of tagging by parts of speech, just to get a sense of how verbs or adverbs or nouns work. But I mean, in French, what's a noun, what's a verb, by and large. So that may not be necessary. I think it depends entirely on the language. You may want to tag, say, phrases where there's the feminine or the masculine, just to get, again, a concentrated look at how the gender works. It depends. It's something that's there. I have used it more for some languages than others. And I use it more at the early stage in a language, when so many things are unclear to me.
And then what about the grammar guide? How often might you reference that?
Well, the languages that I've been learning, ever since we brought in the grammar guide, I've been on languages where we don't have a grammar guide, Arabic,
Okay.
Persian. I would go there quite often. As an example, Context Reverso offers verb conjugations in Greek, and I also had a conjugating dictionary for Turkish. So very often when I looked at a verb, I would then go to the conjugation table to see where this one is, the one that I selected, and to quickly review the conjugation table, because each time you look at it, like the subjunctive or whatever, it's just drip, 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 making you a little bit more familiar with it, but not with the intention of trying to nail it down. And I think our grammar guides, I saw the grammar guide in French, it's very good. And you can essentially drill on anything. And I am regularly curious about pronouns or, adjectives or verb tenses. And so to go there, to look just in and out, look at it. There's a brief description of it. There's no drills or exercises. And then you come back. And so I think it helps you. I think that's very helpful. I think to jump in and out of the grammar guide is a good thing to do. But unfortunately, in the languages that I've been doing, that hasn't been available to me.
Got to work on that.
Yeah. Have you been using the grammar guide?
I have only read through it completely once, and then I looked at it just for reference one other time. Because, I'm starting to understand through just, input.
Right.
But the verb conjugations in French are tricky. They're not the most intuitive, and I noticed the four of the most common verbs are irregular verbs too, which is super fun.
Yeah, I mean, I can go to our grammar guide. I can also Google stuff too. I can Google Romanian verbs. There are so many different places you can go to get that quick look. And I would say with regard to conjugations, I would use Context Reverso. There's another conjugating dictionary, but Context Reversal to me is the best. And every time I'm on a verb, if I'm struggling to get used to, whether in Spanish or French or Italian or any language like that, go to the dictionary just to have a quick look at it. Because you're not going to nail it down. You're not going to study that list and nail it down. But, getting that occasional snapshot of the conjugation tables, I have found to be helpful. Yeah. Okay. All right, so you know what I thought I'd talk about today, before we get into going through a lesson here, because I believe that the language, it's not obvious what's difficult and what's easy. That what's in typically chapter 1 is easier than what's in chapter 10. One of the things I was thinking about this morning in French that you may or may not have come across, for example, is some of the pronoun issues. By the way, I cut my finger this morning. My wife makes she makes this sourdough bread, and it comes in different forms. And she makes baguettes, she makes loaves, and she made this one batch of baguettes that are so small because it didn't rise properly, and we freeze them, and then I put them in the micro for 15 seconds and try and cut it in half to put it into the toaster oven. But it was so small and hard and frozen that my knife kind of slipped on the baguette and cut my finger. Anyway, leaving that aside. So, there is this word on. Have you come across the word on?
Yes, many times.
Okay, so I mean, again, this is something you get used to through context, but on can mean, like, it's one. It can mean us. It can mean, one does this, one does that in English, but it also can mean, qu'est-ce qu'on fait? What are we going to do today? Qu'est-ce qu'on fait? Qu'est-ce qu'on fait? So, on is a very useful little word. You've come across it.
It's like general.
Pardon?
It's general, right? Based kind of on what the context is.
Right.
Like I've been kind of understanding it the same way in Spanish. You can say, like, en Chile se dice esto. Like,
right.
Se dice, se, it refers to the people in Chile, but I could also say, like, nadie se sabe when I'm talking about you and me right now.
Exactly. So, yeah, it is like, on dit, one says, it is said.
So, it is said, right? Or one says.
But it can also mean us. Us,
okay.
Qu'est-ce qu'on fait? You and me, qu'est-ce qu'on fait? Qu'est-ce que nous allons faire? What are we going to do? Qu'est-ce qu'on fait? So it can also have that meaning. All right, that's good. Then there's another little word that pops up all the time, and that's en. Have you seen en?
Is that a different word?
En. E-N. En. En. Right. So, and there's another little word, the Y. So you say il y en a, there are. Il y en a. E just means there. So there are, il y a, of it. En means of it. So that's also a very useful word. And so you're going to start noticing it. You might say, for example, qu'est-ce que t'en penses? Tu en penses. What do you think of it? Qu'est-ce que t'en penses? Or, j'en mange, I eat, like, est-ce que tu aimes le pain? The bread? Bread? You like bread? Est-ce que tu aimes le pain? Oui, j'en mange beaucoup. I eat a lot of it. So the en is a very, very useful word. So we got the on and the en. Okay? I just mentioned that because I was thinking about it this morning. But you'll come across them. And of course, the E is always there. Il y en a. There are, right? Il y a. Il y a.
I thought that il y a meant there is or there are.
Correct.
Where does the on come in then?
Of it.
Il y a on.
Il y en a beaucoup. It always comes out. Il y en a beaucoup. J'en ai. I have some. I have of it. J'en ai. Tu en as. Il en a. That's I have of it. And then il y en a. There are. You know, are there a lot of irregular verbs in French? Oui, il y en a. There are.
Okay.
Oui, il y en a.
Okay.
All right. Anyway, so en, kind of useful little words, and it also helps you to nail that pronunciation. En. Okay. Should we have a look at one of your lessons? Have you been listening to the mini stories fairly regularly?
Yes, just the ones that we've gone through already.
Okay.
They're in my playlist. I listen to them almost every day.
Yeah. Okay. So let's maybe have a look.
Okay.
All right. Now, you got your song there. That's
good.
Here's
my song lyrics.
I'm happy to do your song.
This is by Angel, who's a Belgian singer who I discovered on Spotify a week or two ago. She's Belgian, but she sings in French. And I really like her song.
Should we look at this?
Oh, should we? Yeah.
Sure. Okay. People might be. I'm a great fan of the mini stories because I like the repetition, but I admit that they can get a bit boring.
Okay, so yeah, I have them memorized basically. So should I go back to the beginning or just start here?
Sure. Yeah, whatever you want to do.
Here, let's start at the beginning because it's easier for me. She's got some repetition in this song.
Good. I like this because of the pronunciation and so read the first sentence.
Je veux tes yeux.
Je veux.
Je veux tes yeux.
Tes yeux.
Tes yeux.
Voilà. Je veux tes yeux. I want your eyes.
Je veux tes yeux.
You know, this is a great sentence because, as I often say in French, especially for Spanish speakers, the E sound is very, very important. It makes your French sound French. Wherever you can introduce an E, do so. Je veux tes yeux.
Je veux tes yeux.
Tes yeux. So
tes yeux.
Good practice because you got to then alternate, right? Je veux tes yeux.
Right, yeah.
And notice that the S drags on to the next word. Je veux tes yeux.
Right, because so the Y is considered a vowel in that. Okay. All right, next line.
Didn't I just say that you got to go for the sound?
Sometimes it's hard to remember where the comes in.
Any E that doesn't have an accent on it is
Or one that isn't followed by an S.
Sorry, yes, the S has the same effect. But I also
All right.
the accent often suggests a missing S.
The accent often suggests a missing S.
That's not a good, because there are other situations. Whatever you say in language is always an exception or a contradictory fact. Anyway. Okay, second.
Okay. Okay. Que t'es beau, yo.
Okay. Que, voilà. Que t'es beau. Again, we got to drag it on. Que t'es beaux yeux. Because the X becomes a Z. Same as S. It's a liaison with the next word.
Que t'es beaux yeux.
Voilà, perfect. Next one.
Seulement en photo.
Voilà. This is a very good little song to practice your Us.
It really is.
Yeah.
I've been singing with my earbuds in, so I haven't actually heard how I'm sounding.
Okay. So
all right.
Photo. En photo. En there, it doesn't mean of it. En is in. So only in
right.
picture. Mm-hmm. Photo. Okay, again.
Je veux les deux. No, sorry.
Voilà.
Je veux les deux.
Je veux les deux. Right.
Je veux les deux.
Je veux les deux. You have to be your Spanish. You can't show your Spanish.
Je veux les deux.
Don't worry about it. It's just, you can work on it and work on it and work on it, because language learning is a matter of training the brain. That's all it is. It's not a matter of understanding something. Oh, now I understand it. Now I can do it. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't matter whether it's a structure, whether it's pronunciation. It's all practice. It's not like instant, wow, now I get it. It doesn't work that way. So you just have to. Yeah.
What I've noticed with speaking with Spanish is even if I have it all in my brain, if my mouth isn't accustomed to like making the sounds and, you know, speaking with the correct accent. Like when I went to Chile, it was my first time in a place where they speak with a very different accent than in like Mexico and Costa Rica and more north. And I had a really good friend who was very honest with me, and she goes, Shelby, you have to work on your accent. And I tried to understand, how could I work on my accent? And I realized I had to actually try to mimic the way the Chileans would move their mouth and tongue when they spoke. And so the more I trained myself to do that by just doing it, the easier and more natural it became.
Right. Okay, now let's try the final sentence.
Sans sentir ta peau.
Very good. Sans, and here, of course, we don't hear the S because it's followed by a consonant. And sans, an, is en, but sentir is also en. So these nasal sounds in French, I mean, as I say, you gradually, particularly if you get to a sentence where there's en, un, and un all in a row, it's difficult. And it's only through constant practice. But 3 months from now, you'll just be a lot better at doing it than you are now. So, okay.
So.
Okay, go to the next page.
No, I can't do this one. I can try, but
Okay.
Okay, I think I can do the first line.
Okay.
Okay. Connecte en langue.
Okay.
Ma pas moi.
Connecte.
Connecte.
It's like in English. Connecte.
En langue.
En ligne.
En ligne.
Ligne. The I is always E. Ligne, mostly. Connecte en ligne. Right?
Connecte en ligne.
Mm-hmm. We're connected online. Presumably they talk on Skype for all I know. I don't know. Connected.
Sure.
There we are.
On WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Mais pas à moi.
Voilà. Pas à moi.
Mais pas à moi.
Pas à moi. Okay.
All right.
Then.
Oh man. J'attends ton signe.
Signe. Ligne
Signe.
rhymes with signe, right?
Ligne, signe.
J'attends ton signe. Connecté en ligne, j'attends ton signe.
J'attends ton signe.
I wait for your sign. And then?
Je crois.
Okay. What's happening there is, so in French, J-E is je, right? So the missing E is a E, je crois. But very often the E disappears. Like even at the end of a word, like ligne, you can pronounce it ligne, but most of the time we don't hear E. It just goes ligne. So it becomes sort of a neutral sound that sort of disappears. So sometimes, maybe to match the poetry here, instead of saying je crois, he says je crois, je crois, je crois. So that's something that you'll encounter, like in English we sometimes gonna wanna, right? So in French, very often the disappeared. Like if you say je ne sais pas, I don't know, very often they just say je sais pas, 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 I don't know, instead of je ne sais pas. So here, je crois. All right.
Je crois qu'il y en a pas.
Qu'il y en a pas. Qu'il y en a pas. Here again, in proper French, qu'il y en a pas. Remember we spoke about the en? Qu'il n'y en a pas would be correct. Il n'y, parce que you need the ne pas. So typically that should be qu'il n'y en a pas. But in the song and in everyday speech, qu'il y en a pas. So that the il ne has disappeared. So je crois qu'il y en a pas. Okay, that's
the disappearing language of French.
This is the wanna of French, okay?
Okay, je crois qu'il y en a pas.
Very good, perfect.
Yay. J'ai vu.
Try. You'll eventually get the U. It's not vous. J'ai vu.
J'ai vu.
Vu. You got to work on the U sound. You go oh and try and say E. You go oh U.
Oh.
There you go. That's it. You got to practice.
All right, that's good stuff. J'ai vu.
Vu, oui.
J'ai vu que t'as vu. Que t'as vu.
Voilà. J'ai vu que t'as vu. Here again, the you, it's j'ai vu, I have seen, que tu as vu, that you have seen. But the u disappears in very casual speech. J'ai vu que t'as vu.
J'ai vu que t'as vu.
Voilà. You'll work on your u's. We won't worry about that. U.
Tu réponds pas.
Tu réponds pas. Again, the ne is missing. Réponds pas.
Si. So, yes.
Tu ne réponds pas. Tu ne réponds pas. You don't reply. But in common speech, the ne disappears.
Okay. Alors, j'attends.
Oui.
Toujours, j'attends.
Oui.
Quand il sonne.
Now, by the way, for the hell, can we go in sentence mode here?
Oh, sure.
Okay, and show the translation, because we have had people saying, what does it mean?
Oh, right.
Okay, so, yeah. Right, so this is easier. So, j'attends, toujours j'attends. Let's go back a page. I just want to show something.
Okay.
So one of the problems with French conjugation is when you say j'attends, you say j'attends, tu attends, il attend. Like I wait, you wait, he waits, right? They all sound the same. But the first two have an S and the second one doesn't have it. Or the third one doesn't have an S. It's kind of the reverse of English, where the third person singular, the present tense, takes an S. I go, you go, he goes. They're very often in French. J'attends takes an S, tu attends takes an S, il attend, no S. Right? So whenever you review your conjugation, you'll see it's just a chance to review that and all the different forms of conjugation, just to remind yourself. You'll still get it wrong, but still. Alors j'attends, toujours j'attends. Okay, next page. Let's give a
lots of blue on this one. Don't even know what I'm going to be saying. Can I translate it?
Yeah, please. I find, by the way, when I'm going through my Arabic and Persian, and I'm trying to decipher a sentence, and I'm always in sentence mode because it's so difficult for me, I like to look at the translation. It gives me a better chance as I go through and I, get the meanings of the individual words.
Yeah, yes, it's really hard to understand a word in context when it's singled out.
Exactly.
And sometimes it's perfect, but sometimes, and a lot of the time, it really depends on the phrase. And that's why I really recommend that everyone saves phrases, not just words as links.
But you also need the words. You need to say both. You need to say both.
Yeah, I'll save a phrase and I'll save the words within the phrase too as separate links because they'll be used in different ways. But the common phrases are very helpful. Even like you're sharing these common little pronouns, I guess, or these little articles that are used in so many different contexts.
The smaller the unit, the more likely it'll repeat. So if you save a word, it's likely to show up again. If you save a phrase, that phrase may show up again. And of course you need to see them often. So it's a good, and therefore some people like to save whole sentences. And I don't think that's so good because sentences tend to be more unique. Whereas if you can get, very common phrases, you'll see them again and again.
So, I'll show you, as we go later through this song, there was one phrase that I saved in these lyrics that I can show you guys that might be a good example.
You want to jump to that, or it's up to you, or do you want to go through these, see the words here?
No, I don't want to read this one.
All right, go for it.
Actually, let's see. Okay, we have to go through the chorus again. I'm going to go out of sentence mode for a second. This one.
Okay.
So, folle de toi.
Folle de toi. Folle de toi.
Yeah, so, crazy about you.
Right. And by the way, if we haven't heard the singer, we don't know up to this point if it's, maybe there were some indications, but whether it's a guy or a girl. But folle de toi, it's a girl. Because that's who is the masculine.
And I had heard that one on a different story. And then I understood this to mean, also of course this is from the first time we saw each other.
No, is sigh. It's not sights.
Sighs. From our first sighs. When
they first met, they fell in love.
So I understood that as love at first sight.
No.
First sight.
But that's very interesting because we do jump to conclusions about things.
Yeah.
So we're conditioned. You're conditioned in English to love at first sight. So you quickly ignored the fact that there was no T there. It's of our size. Well, I do this all the time. We make assumptions. We jump at it. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no, totally. Well, I'll need to unsave that one. But I did save this too by itself, even though it might not show up a lot, but just understanding.
That's a good one. Folle de toi, yeah. Whether folle d'envie, I very much want that. Fou or folle de, crazy about doing something, is very common. A good expression. But
I've heard it come up in multiple different French lessons. So it sounds like something people say.
Now, the reason why we shouldn't begin by saving phrases, go and save the word soupir. Okay? Sighing, right? Now you're not going to make the mistake of thinking it's love at first sight. So I think it makes sense to save the words first and then save the phrase.
Good lesson.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know why I don't already have this one saved.
I think premier, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe we've gone for we don't want to go on too long. I think we've hit some things here. I think it's great that you're doing a song, and it introduces you to the sort of more casual language where lots of stuff is left out. And people who I think it's very good to get the formal structure, because when you speak, there are situations where you have to speak correctly, and then there are situations. And then there are situations where you can speak more casually. So you need to know what the correct structure is. And I think in that regard, the mini stories are good. But if you then go out with a gang of friends and they're all talking this way, it's also you have this exposure too. So that's great.
Yeah, definitely.
And
maybe a nice mix.
And where did you get the song, by the way?
Well, so I was on Spotify and I was looking for French music. I was referred to another French artist, and I did the Spotify radio option, which is great because it'll introduce you to a lot of other artists and songs that you might also like. I think the algorithm is great, and so I came across Angèle, her name is, and I loved her sound, so I started following her on Spotify, and I imported a few of her song lyrics in already.
Where did you find the songs? Where did you find the text?
The lyrics?
Yeah.
Just quick Google search, the song name and paroles.
Parole.
Parole, the French word.
Parole.
Parole.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, and of course usually it's like on Google right there, but and then I'll listen to it and I'll read it on Google, and if the Google is not the correct translation, then I'll look at some of the top pages, because there's a lot of good crowdsourced pages for lyrics.
Can you show us here? First of all, and if you found that song on YouTube, you could actually import, and if it had subtitles, you could import.
That's actually really true.
Video of that artist singing, as well as the text and the audio. But so that here you have it just the lyrics, you don't have it with the audio. If you had found, could you show us on your screen where the LingQ browser extension is to import?
Yeah, do you want me to go to YouTube as well?
First, show me where, if you could show us where the browser extension is.
So the browser extension, I have this bar going across. Here we go. So here's the LingQ extension right here.
Where did you get it? Oh yeah. Okay.
Oh, well, it's on the front page of the LingQ site, but also you can just easily Google LingQ import extension, and it'll be right there.
Yeah, because some of maybe of our viewers don't know about the browser extension, don't know where to find it, and don't know how easy it is to use. But we can import literally anything, including YouTube videos or text or whatever.
Yeah, in like 2 or 3 clicks. It's amazing how easy it is. And even, a long YouTube video or even Netflix, you feel like it's a lot of content that you're importing, and it's within a couple seconds that it's all ready. So yeah, I hadn't thought about doing the YouTube videos, but that's a good idea. This girl also makes very funny videos too, so.
One thing it'd be interesting to experiment with, when I import videos from YouTube, they are timestamped. And when I go through the video, like let's say it's a TED talk in Arabic or something, it's timestamped. So therefore, when I'm in sentence mode, I actually can hear the original sound. So, so it's not text to speech, it's the actual person speaking. Right. So if you were to find the song, I'd be curious to know if you found the song on YouTube and imported it and then went through it in sentence mode, whether you could actually hear the person singing for each sentence, the actual audio. Give that a try.
That'll be really cool to experiment with.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because now I've just been listening on Spotify and reading the lyrics at the same time, but that's next level.
One of the advantages of getting the audio into LingQ is that you then, every time you listen to it, let's say it'll automatically go to your playlist. Every time you listen to it, you're getting credit for listening. So when you listen on Spotify, in fact, LingQ is not tracking your hours of listening. So
no, definitely not.
Maybe next week we'll go through your profile. Like you can see how you'll track over the last weeks or even months how much time you spent listening, reading, and doing things on LingQ. And I find it encouraging to see, at what period were we more active, less active. So unfortunately, anything that's done outside of LingQ, you can enter it manually, but very few people do that. So in the end, it's a good idea to get it into LingQ so that it'll track automatically what you've been doing.
Yeah, definitely. It makes it just a lot easier, and you have it all in one place.
Exactly. Okay, I think that's good. You're exploring. That's what we want. Language learners have to be explorers. Okay.
Yeah. Well, and the last, important thing that I was thinking about was with music. It really sticks. I've met so many people who have learned an entire language mostly just through listening to music in that language and looking at the lyrics. And of course, it takes time and dedication, but because you can actually sing along and you've got this like tune that goes with it, you can remember it better. And so I wanted to try to like implant things into my memory with a little bit more force and experiment with not just many stories, but
exactly
songs and podcasts and all that good stuff.
That's good. And the interesting thing is with the song, it introduces a more casual form of the language, which is fun to do.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Okay. À la prochaine. You know what that means?
No.
La prochaine is la próxima in Spanish.
Okay.
And to the next, till the next time.
Until next time.
Until next time.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
I can say a bientôt.
A bientôt. A bientôt. Voilà. Okay, bye-bye.